right? So these are the reasons why Rutherford atom model got failed, right? So we require a new model, right, to correct the limitations of Rutherford atom model. Bohr atom model is introduced by Niels Bohr in 1930. It is similar to Rutherford atom model, but major assumption for Bohr atom model is electrons are moving in certain path, not like random movement, like any circular path. In Rutherford atom model, electrons can take any circular path, right? It's like you are running in a ground, simply you are running in a ground. But if you are running in a running track, for example, tracks will be there, no, in grounds, then you are allowed to run only inside the track. That concept is introduced in Bohr atom model. So in Bohr atom model, electrons cannot move in any circular paths. Rather, it can move only in certain path, and we will call those paths as orbits. Or in school, you might have studied like shells. So this concept, the shell concept, is introduced by Niels Bohr. So to correct the limitations of Rutherford atom model, Bohr atom model is introduced by Niels Bohr in 1913. It is similar to Rutherford model, but major assumption of Bohr atom model is electrons are moving in certain orbits or paths, like planets move around the stars, right? Like the sun and Earth is moving in a path. It's not a circular path, it is like an oval kind of path, but still it is moving in a fixed path, right? That paths are known as orbits or shells, right? A schematic representation is given here. All of you have studied these things. So we can see electrons are moving in certain orbits. Now, if an electron moving in the first orbit, this property is very, very important. Imagine I have an electron in the first orbit. Imagine an electron in the first orbit. Sorry. In the first orbit. If an electron is present in the first orbit. And you are allowing this atom to be exposed with an electromagnetic radiation. For example, electromagnetic radiation is coming and hitting on that matter. So what happens? This electron can absorb a certain amount of energy from the incoming radiation. So now the electrons got sufficient amount of energy to jump into higher orbit. See, electrons can change its position in the orbits when they accept energy. So here, if you see, in Rutherford atom model, it couldn't explain the interaction with the matter and the radiation. But here, in Bohr atom model, that interaction is well explained. An electromagnetic radiation, a radiation is coming. The electrons in the atom, it absorbed that energy. Once the electron got sufficient amount of energy to jump to higher energy state, it will jump and stay there. Right? If it wants to come back to its original position, it can come back. How? How much energy it absorbed during that jump, if it releases, right? If that energy releases, then that electron can go back to its initial position. So we can see electrons are moving on certain orbits. If an electron is moving in the first orbit, gets sufficient amount of energy, then it can go to higher orbits, which is in higher energy level. Similarly, if an electron in higher orbit can release a specific amount of energy, then that of electron can come to inner orbits by releasing energy. So first time an atom model explained the interaction of matter with the radiation. So Niels Bohr atom model was actually an impressive atom model at that time. Now, Bohr atom model can explain the stability of an atom, which couldn't explain by Rutherford atom model. Rutherford atom model, it couldn't explain the stability of an atom, but Bohr atom model can explain the stability of an atom to a certain extent. For example, we can compare. So this is nucleus and electron is moving in an orbit. Electron is moving in an orbit. So I can compare the movement of an electron in an atom to a movement of a stone, which is tied to a rope. And by applying force, it can revolve, right? If a person, imagine a person who is giving force, right? The stone will follow a circular path. You can revolve the electrons. You can revolve the stone by giving force to it, right? Imagine that person who is giving that force, if he releases the force, so what happens? The stone will be, fly away from the circular path in a tangential direction. You might have done this, right? If you have a stone which is tied to a rope, and if you are, rotating it, if you are revolving it, and at a particular time you are releasing it, then what will happen? The stone will lose its circular path and take its path through a tangential direction. Similarly, imagine an electron is moving around the nucleus. So to continue the movement in the nucleus, it requires a force. Like if that stone has to move in this circular path, somebody should give a force. So a force should act. So for the movement of the electrons, there should be a force acting on it. Right? As long as the person giving the force, the stone will follow the circular path. In the case, two forces are acting and cancelling each other. We know that when you rotate these things, two forces will be acting. One is centripetal force and centrifugal force that you have studied in your school. And these forces acting in opposite direction, which will allow the continuous movement of the stone in the circular path unless you are not giving force, right? Similarly, two forces are acting for electrons also. For example, you have nucleus, which contains protons, which is positively charged, and the electrons are moving in the orbit. There are two forces. One, the force due to centripetal acceleration. The force due to centripetal acceleration, you have already studied. Whenever an object, if it is moving in circular path, right, and getting that force from a center, then definitely there will be a centripetal acceleration force. That direction will be in this direction. Another force is already acting on the electron, which is an electrostatic attraction, from the nucleus. So two forces. One, electrons are negatively charged, protons are positively charged. There will be attractive force, first force. Second force, due to the movement of the electron in the circular path, there is a force due to centripetal acceleration. Centripetal acceleration equation you have studied in your school, mv square by r. You studied in your school, in your writing 9th standard. M is the mass of the electron, v is the velocity of the electron, r is the radius of the circular path. Same time, another force, which is electrostatic attraction, which is due to the attractive force between the proton and the electron. And I can make an equation for that also. The attractive force equal to a constant into E is charge of the electron, its square, divided by the radius, its square. R is the radius of the circular orbit. Two types of forces, right? Two types of forces. These two forces acting in opposite direction and cancel each other. This will allow electrons to remain away from the nucleus and follow the circular path. That is the reason. So unlike Rutherford model atom, Rutherford model, what I said, the electrons will lose its energy and it will come to the nucleus, and it will hit the nucleus and the stability of the atom will be lost. Now, that's not the case. Because of the two forces acting in opposite direction, electrons can remain in its orbit. So it will not come to hit the nucleus by releasing the energy. So Bohr atom model could explain stability of an atom to a greater extent. Very, very important. So if you compare the previous atom models, whether it is John Dalton spherical atom model, or J.J. Thomson plum pudding model, or Rutherford nuclear atom model, Bohr atom model is much, much better because it could explain the interaction of the radiation and the matter. Very, very important point. Second, it could explain the properties. It could explain the properties of, it could explain the stability. It could explain the stability of an atom. So very, very important point. That's why whenever you think about atom model, which atom model is coming into your mind? Can anybody answer? Which atom model? You have studied Dalton atom model, J.J. Thomson atom model, Rutherford atom model, Bohr atom model in your school. All four models you have studied. But when you think about atom model, which model comes to your mind? Can anybody answer?
The Bohr's model.
Bohr's model. Now you know why? Because using this model, you will be able to explain some of the properties. If you can explain the properties, then you will adapt that. Okay, this is a good model, right? This is a good model. For example, you have 5 different notes you collected from internet to study a subject. Which note you will prefer? Which makes you understand better, right? That you will take, and you will not read the remaining. You will not read all the notes that is available in the internet, right? Which one makes easy for you to learn the subject? You will take that and you will forget about the remaining. That you have done. Because compared to all these models, Bohr atom model could explain most of the properties of an atom. So you might have thought that, okay, Bohr atom model is a really, really good model. That's why whenever now any student, if you ask, can you draw an atom model? He will draw this. I'm sure that he won't draw any other model, right? Even though you learned about different models, nobody will draw any other model other than this. Because for us, this model gave us most of the explanations related to the properties of an atom. Understood? Now, a new term I'm going to introduce. That term is quanta. I think you learned about this term before. In physics, have you learned this term? Have you learned this term in physics? No. You haven't learned? Okay. Have you learned photoelectric effect in your 10th standard? Where Albert Einstein got his Nobel Prize. He got his Nobel Prize for photoelectric effect. Okay, anyway, if you have not learned, anyway, you will be learning in your physics class, right? So why we say that Bohr quantized his model? Quanta means fixed. It's fixed. You see, the position of or the circular orbits are fixed. For example, first orbit, second orbit, third orbit. No electrons can move in between. That is not possible. In between the orbits, no electrons can move. Electrons can move only in that fixed path. So it is fixed. That's why the term quanta. This term is actually related with radiation. When you study about photoelectric effect, at that time you will learn. And you will learn a new equation also at that time. I don't know whether you have learned it in your 10th standard, which is Planck's equation. E equal to h nu. E equal to h nu means energy of a radiation is directly proportional to the frequency of that radiation, and h is the Planck's constant. So this actually gave the concept of the quanta first. The similar kind of quanta concept is introduced by Bohr-atom model, because he said electrons can move only in fixed paths. So we can say that, okay, it's quantized. It's quantized. Quantized means fixed position, fixed circular path. Even though Bohr-atom model could explain most of the properties of an atom, but there are some limitations of Bohr-atom model. All of you studied about Heisenberg uncertainty principle in your, whether you learned about Heisenberg uncertainty principle in 10th standard, or you are going to learn about Heisenberg uncertainty principle in your +1. I will teach you a very small portion of Heisenberg uncertainty principle now. Bohr-atom model cannot explain Heisenberg uncertainty principle. What is Heisenberg uncertainty principle? I will discuss now. It is applicable to only atoms with a smaller size, very smaller size. It cannot explain the properties of atoms which are bigger. Then poor spectral prediction. Poor spectral prediction means even though it could explain the interaction between the matter and the radiation, but full explanation after the interaction, what really happens means after absorbing that energy from the radiation, what electrons will do, how electrons will behave, that complete information couldn't be given by, is not given by Bohr-atom model. So these three things were the limitations of Bohr-atom model, and that limitations mainly comes with the nature of the electrons. These portions that you are going to start when you will learn your structure of atoms chapter in your PhD. It will start with this point. So even though you are going to learn this, I want to give a brief introduction about these characteristics of atoms. So it will make you, comfortable once you start learning chemistry in your +1. Louis de Broglie in 1924, he proposed a phenomenon which is wave-particle duality. So what he said, any moving particle, they have two properties. One, it is having a wave nature as well as particle nature. But till now, we studied waves in the form of radiation or sound waves or light waves, right? We haven't studied anything related to wave nature of matter. We think that matter is particles. How can they behave as wave? But de Broglie said they behave in wave nature as well as particle nature. And he gave an equation also, that is lambda equal to h by mv. H is a constant which is known as Planck's constant. You will study about Planck's constant later. We are not going to discuss that, but we are going to discuss this property. For example, if I throw a stone, I think that stone is moving like this, right? I'm not finding any wave nature for this movement, but actually it is moving as wave, like this. We are not noticing it. We are not noticing it. What does it mean? A ball, which is kind of a particle, when it is in movement, it behaves like a wave. A wave nature is associated with the moving objects. And that wave nature, if it is moving like a wave, then definitely there will be wavelength. And you know that what is wavelength that you studied? A wavelength. That wavelength is lambda. M is the mass of the object. If it is a ball, then it is mass of the ball. If it is an electron, then mass of the electron. And V, velocity, at which speed it moves. You can ask the question, if it really occurs, then why I'm not seeing that balls are moving? As if I'm throwing a stone, why it is not moving in the waveform, right? It is normally take the path of a trajectory or a straight line, not as a wave. Then we can actually, by looking at this equation, we will understand that very easily. You see here this equation. For example, I'm taking a cricket ball and I'm throwing it. Cricket ball mass is very, very small, right? Cricket ball, very small, right? But whether the mass of a cricket ball is higher than that of an electron, if you compare the mass of an electron, then a cricket ball is very heavy. So for cricket ball, mass is a little bit on the higher side. Mass is on higher side for a cricket ball. If mass is higher, it is in denominator. What will be the wavelength? Wavelength will be less, because wavelength and mass, as per this equation, they are inversely proportional. So cricket ball is having higher mass, so lambda will be very small. So the wavelength will be very small. If wavelength is very, very small, you will not be able to observe that wave nature, and you will be thinking electrons are moving in straight line or in trajectory motion. You will not see the wave nature. That's why actually wave nature is there, but you will not be able to distinguish it. Reason? If you see the mass of the ball, which is quite high, if you are comparing with the electrons or any other subatomic particles, a cricket ball is having a high mass. So if the mass is higher, as per this equation, lambda will be very low. And lambda, the wavelength, is very, very small compared to the size of a cricket ball. So you will not be able to see that wave nature. But at the same time, if you consider an electron, for example, mass is very, very small, like 9.1 into 10 to the power minus 34 kilogram. Isn't that right? 28 gram, not 28 gram. If this is very, very small, so mass is very small means, as per this equation, lambda should be very high. So for the movement of electrons, lambda value is quite high. And the wavelength is comparatively higher when you consider the size, when you consider the size of an electron. So the wave nature of electrons are, distinguishable. You will be able to carefully understand. You will be able to understand there is a wave nature associated with electrons very easily by observing electrons. If you observe the nature of the electron, then we will be able to see that, okay, electrons are having wave nature, but you will not be seeing the wave nature of a cricket ball. That is not possible, because cricket balls, lambda value is very low compared to the size of the cricket ball. But for electrons, lambda value is quite high compared to its size. So it will be very much distinguishable for electrons about its wave nature. So now electrons are moving in circular path. We thought like this as per the Bohr-Rayet model. Now, if they are moving in circular path, means it should not be having wave nature. But we know that now the electrons are moving in wave nature. So now, can I say there is a fixed path which is circular in shape where electrons can move? No. No, now you cannot say that electrons are moving circular path, in circular path. If it is in circular path, it's easy for me to predict the position. It's easy. I know that electrons can move only through these points if they are moving in circular path. But as per the wave particle duality concept, electrons are having wave nature as well. So now it's very, very difficult for us. To tell exactly the position of electrons. Then a principle from Heisenberg. Okay. So Heisenberg said, right, it's impossible to know exactly both the position and the momentum of electron at the same time. He said, now the electrons are moving in wave nature, having wave nature. Then it is very, very difficult to say that electron's position. If it was moving only in circular orbit, it is easy to tell because we know that it can follow only this path. But actually, it is not following that path. So it is very, very difficult for us to exactly determine the position and momentum. Momentum means mass into velocity is momentum. Momentum also difficult to, calculate or measure at the same time. And this principle is known as Heisenberg uncertainty principle. An equation is associated with this uncertainty principle. You will study about Heisenberg uncertainty principle in your +1, and you will be solving numericals associated with this equation. So I'm not going to solve equations associated with numericals associated with this equation, but I wanted to give why this Heisenberg uncertainty principle is very, very important. It's because of the movement of electron, which is actually not exactly in circular path, because it has now a wave nature. If it is having a wave nature, then can you now visualize the Bohr atom model properly? Like Bohr atom model means electrons should be moving in circular path, fixed circular path. Now we know that electrons cannot move like that. Electrons cannot move in circular path because it is having wave nature associated with it. So Bohr atom model is not the right model to explain the properties of electrons, and properties of electrons is very, very important to tell about or to determine the properties of an atom. So now onwards, an important point that should come to our mind, that electrons are actually not following any circular path. So this orbit concept is not 100% correct. For visualization, fine. You can say that atoms are, I will also draw like this only in +1 also. Actually, they are not following this path, right?